This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshito. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do. What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here with the Lean Builder podcast, Hoots on the Ground with no bullshito. And I've got Mr. Jesse Hernandez here with us today. Super excited. He's one of my lean idols. I have a few of them out there. They are few and far between, but I really look up to you, Jess. I am excited to just tell your story to the lean builders and let them hear where you've been to where you are now, how you got there, dive into some of the things you've changed in my life, which I'm so grateful for. I got so much love for you. Jess, if you could just go ahead and dive in, tell us who you are, Mr. Hernandez.
Well, you weren't supposed to make me blush like right out of the gate, Adam, but I appreciate that, man. All love. That's how we roll, right? That's how we do things. The first important thing that I need to say is my name is Jesus D. Hernandez Jr. And I got to say that because Mom, if and when she listens to this, it's important to her that I introduce myself by the name she gave me. But everyone knows me as Jesse. And there's also like, being out on the job site back in the days when I had my tools on, there were a lot of people that call me Chuy. And so I've learned over the years to respond to all of the above, and then a bunch of other extra special names that you get out on the job site, which I expect, I said back when I had my tools on, I haven't had my tools on in a long time. And I really miss that, right? The camaraderie, the razzing, the challenging, the hazing, like, that was the stuff, man. There were really good times, and then there was some super, super painful times. And the fuel that I used to continue working on this big giant thing that we're all working on, right? The change makers, you, Jen, Jason, Felipe, Spencer, Steve Martin, like this community just continues to expand and grow. Jake, trying to make things better for the people out there that are doing the damn work. I started. Should I start there, Adam?
How about when you were born? Tell us, go back. Okay. Hey, let's make Mama really, really happy, huh?
I love it. Well, the highlights can be deceiving, right? I am, Silver Fox over here, as dubbed by Davis and Walker. Shout out to them, hometowners. They're awesome guys.
You handled that very well on that podcast, by the way, or that live stream. The live stream that you did with those two, you handled that very, very well. All these young bucks, and then here's Jess. They're giving you heck, and I think that speaks to what you're talking about. A little bit of that harassment. You miss it a little bit, but too much can be a little stressful, huh?
You got it. I mean, so that's the thing, right? One of the important things that I learned through that, even though it was uncomfortable, is especially in our business, thick skin is a high value asset, right? Being able to absorb there's a line between having thick skin and being able to take a joke and being disrespected. And so that's one of the things I learned along my career. Like, people respect me to the degree that I respect myself. And that took some time to learn, right? Because I was out there acting a fool and signaling to people that it was okay to be disrespectful towards me, about me, and around me. And I think, a lot of our trades folks, I am a huge advocate for careers in the trades, specifically in construction, because that's the industry I know. And what usually doesn't come across in the content that I put out there is the ownership element that the trade partners need to take, meaning I need to show up ready to show out. If I show up like a clown, of course I'm going to be treated like a dunce. But if I show up professional, understanding and owning my impact as a builder, as a subject matter expert, as a continuous learner, people are going to treat me differently. And so when I started apprenticeship back in 95, before the year had like twos in front of it, it was just to have a job, man. I was just trying to make some money to save up, to pay for room and board at Tyler Junior College, because the Houston Astros, they lost my number and we didn't have Facebook back then. So they had a hard time finding me. And I discovered that the job site was exactly where I needed to be. And in the trades, I was able to work, physicality. I know you're an athletic dude, so the physicality of the work was what I needed, the environment, the problem solving, the amount of problem solving that our labor force does on a daily basis, it would blow people's minds. Like if you haven't worked in the industry, you just have no idea. And you'll hear it in folks that haven't done work with their hands. They're like amazed by people. They're like, they just figure things out. It's like, yeah, you figure it out. That's kind of, I've been able to take those lessons, those iterations of doing things that way into the social media stuff that I've been doing, into serving organizations, serving executives, just kind of figure it out. There's data points. They're telling you the feedback. They're telling you what they value, and you pull it apart, tease it out, say, does this work? And then they say yes or no.
Yeah, there's a lot of improvisation. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah.
That's the word. That's the word.
Innovative, right? There's innovative minds where you just gotta, there's a million ways to get something done and you figure it out. So what I love that I hear you saying is, you're bringing a craft worker's mentality, which is problem solving. Like, let's get it done, man. And you're bringing that to, I've heard some of from the Learnings and Missteps podcast, you're bringing it with your fancy shoes, right? You're bringing it into the office, and, you're trying to bridge that gap of, I love what you're doing with Jen, right? The no BS with Jen and Jess. Like, what an amazing, and it really has me thinking of when you do own your impact, and you're not, I was just talking to somebody and they know who they are. I'm not going to call them out. I was talking to them yesterday and they're like, hey, there's this other superintendent I think it'd be great for you to talk to. He's like a real general superintendent. And I was like, whoa, time out. But I let him finish and I let him go on. And what I learned was, like, from, again, that no BS with Jen and Jess, is there's a next question there. And so I'm like writing it on my hand so I don't forget it, because I'm following the conversation. And so break or natural pause in the conversation. And I was just like, hey, something you just said bothered me. Like, you said the other one's a real, like, why did you say that? Because we're on different pages here, because I thought you were the real one, and this one was trying to catch up. It's amazing, cognitive dissonance, kind of those manifests. You say it and then you become it, is something that I have learned from you. I'm so grateful for that. One quick question, and this wasn't on the agenda that we so meticulously prepared hours ahead of time. We hashtag Gen LCI'd it, but so impromptu innovative question for you here, Chuy, right?
Yep, you got it.
So since 95, you're a trade worker. What is the one kind of, I don't want to say harassment. I don't want to I don't want to get canceled these days, like 4 or 5 podcasts into it, but what is the one thing that you remember that, like, really coming up through the trades, or what was that one story where it was like, wow, this is my, like, welcome to the NFL, boy?
Ooh, I thought I was totally expecting a different type of question. So like that challenge, and like, yep, you're right. So the best way to explain this is I had the fortune of being a helper to pipe fitter welder. His name's Ed Mauricio. Tremendous influence in my life, completely transformed the way I planned work. And I was working as a plumber's apprentice, doing the plumbing, fixtures, roughing in, topping out. And then they said, hey, go work with Ed. He was tough. Like, he was straight up real. And the way I worked was plumbing style, according to him, right? And you're just a stovepipe fitter. Like, and he would tell me, like, Jesse, all you got to do is be smarter than the pipe. That's all. And I'm like, man, stop saying that. It was always that. And it took a while. And then it finally landed. Like, I'm making things harder than they need to be by not visualizing the work, taking into consideration the space in the mechanical room or in the ceiling, and drawing out the configuration of the piping that we're going to install and getting dimensions, and then cutting and putting it together, right? By doing it piecemeal at a time, I would have to add extra 90s. I'd run out of space. I'd have to take things apart. And every time he saw that, he's like, Jess, looks like that pipe's still smarter than you. Like, shut your mouth. And so absolutely, you got me. And that's kind of the situation, it's a thinking that I've carried forward, is things aren't that complicated. And when they get extra complicated, they're only complicated because of me. It is the complexity that I'm adding to the situation by either projecting my insecurities on the situation, not taking the time to thoroughly think things out, not taking into account second and third order consequences. When I don't do that, all of a sudden things are very complicated and everything is smarter than me. And all I got to do is be smarter than the pipe. That's it.
What a lesson. Thank you, Mr. Ed. Wow.
Yes.
Hopefully he tunes into this and hears that you have gotten a little bit smarter than the pipe. But I'm going to tell you from experience, and again, I'm a former plumber's helper, would certainly not classify myself as a plumber anymore. But that pipe is really, really smart, Jess.
Boy. Oh, yeah.
It's been stumping us for generations, decades. I mean, it's centuries. That pipe is really, really smart. I appreciate you being a little vulnerable and sharing that with us here. And I think I'm catching a theme. And again, I know you from the Learnings and Missteps. I know you from the Skilled Trades Alliance, which you've been just a huge catapult to really drive that organization to the next level. We thank you for that. I guess help us understand that love for the trade worker. Changing the image of the skilled trades is kind of your go-to. And man, you work hard. You're constantly giving yourself to it. Dive into your why and what drives you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The whole thing is enhancing the image of careers in the trades. That's what the purpose and the mission is with Learnings and Missteps. And so that's derived from my own personal experience. And so the why, all through, I'm a nerdy boy, right? Like I can process information and regurgitate the answers and pass tests. Like that's not hard for me. So when I was in high school or middle school and high school, I got put into this program that was multilingual to learn another language. And I studied Latin in middle school. Now, part of the deal was I was not allowed to take any vocational courses, and I could only take college geared courses, which was cool, right? It was setting me up for some definition of success. And the message I received was go to college or flip burgers, and there's nothing in between. And I believed it. Like I remember working that first summer thinking, man, I need to, I hope I can save up enough money so I can go to college. Otherwise, I am doomed to flipping burgers. And by the way, flipping burgers is a value-added activity because I love me some burgers. And then what I discovered was I love the trades. And so I made a decision. I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to do this plumbing thing. And my dad's a plumber, so I'm a second generation plumber. Dad was not excited about that. Like he felt I've never seen that degree of disappointment in anyone's eyes since the day I told my dad, I'm not going to go to school. I'm going to stay working. And he takes blame for that. And it wasn't his fault. It's just, I fell in love with it. Through those early years in my apprenticeship, I grew tremendously. I learned, like skyrocket of learning, and it wasn't in a classroom and it wasn't on a college campus. And I know, you can tell, right? With all these handsome features that I have, had I gone to college, man, I would have been lost chasing women. Like bottom line, that's what I would have been doing. It would have been a total waste. And I didn't thrive in a classroom. I didn't really know that until I went to work out in a job site and understood, the communication skills that I had to develop communicating with older men. Like my peers were 30 and 40 and 50. I was 18. And so all of these things I was learning out on a job site and got introduced to lean And that all of a sudden, that was a whole new level, right? It took me all the way out into a new atmosphere. But it was a result of making a commitment to build a career in the trades. There's a lot of people messaging, and we need a lot more messaging about the amazing opportunities that are in a career in the trades. And what I mean by opportunities specifically is the opportunity for growth. And I believe that it's a result of the environment that the construction industry provides. If you're a high sensory input type person, the job site is where it's at. You got noise, you got action, you got risk, you got smells, you got it all. Just, don't go licking doorknobs. That's not healthy. But you got everything except for maybe the taste. And so if that's that type of environment engages your brain and draws you in and enables you to like laser focus, the trades is where it's at. I'm not going to have that type of sensory input in a darn classroom. Like, I'm just not, unless I'm the one making the noise. I'm the one bringing the smells, right? Like that's not welcomed in a classroom. So it really is a thing of how do we help people understand the different things that contribute to a person thriving such that they can become the promise that they are intended to be. And I'm not saying that construction is the only place for that. What I'm saying is we need to include that in the list of places for people to grow in that type of nurturing environment. That's why.
Dude, you're getting me fired up over here. Like, I want to go dive back in to some of those nasty, smelly. Sometimes you do taste things you don't want to taste in those.
Sometimes, yep.
Only way to know if it's sanitary or not, right? Taste it. And I love that you said, burger flipper versus doctor, right? Like, those are your two options. You're either professional or you're flipping burgers, college or burgers. And what's ironic about it is both of those edges of the spectrum would be nothing without a plumber in their life, without a grease trap, without sanitary services. Like, neither one of those function. And so, there is this missing gap here of trade workers and its knowledge. And I'll tell you, I love what you're doing as well, because you're the real deal. Like, you've got the Learnings and Missteps podcast. You're helping other people get podcasts out there, myself included. Tell us a little bit about the live streams you're doing with Mr. Ultra Steve Turner and Bring Back the Trades.
Oh man, that's like straight up luck. So Steve Turner, Ultra Steve Turner with Bring Back the Trades. We connected on LinkedIn back when we launched the podcast. And he does scholarships for anybody that's continuing their education in the trades, building their skill set. And that's an amazing cause. So we connected and kept communication going, got him on the podcast, got to hear his story. And then Jen and I started the 5S in relationships that led to No BS with Jen and Jess. And Steve has been a fierce supporter of all the things that we're doing. And he hits me up. He's like, hey, man, I got an idea. I was like, okay. He says, what if we live stream with teachers? Like, if we have the educators on the screen and live stream so that the local community can interact with them and ask them questions, etc. I was like, oh my, that is a genius idea. So we set up a call. I was expecting him to ask me to like coach him through doing a live stream. He's like, no, you got it wrong, Jess. I don't want you to coach me. I need you to host it. And I was like, boom, like mind blown. Like, are you like, for me, like, it was about 5 years ago, Wesley Baker, another amazing mentor in my life, who came up through the trades and now has significant influence and responsibility with TV industries. He had asked me, like, where are you headed? Like, you're going somewhere. I don't know how to help you get there. Like, well, I don't know either. So let me think about it. And my answer was, at that time, this was way back, right? Pre-COVID, I was only working in San Antonio. So what I see myself is speaking to parents, educators, and students nationally about careers in the trades. That's what I see. When Steve made the request of me hosting his live stream with teachers, parents, that was my dream. how that happened is just a series of miracles. But that's how it happened. And so, of course, I'm like, bro, let's do this thing. We did it. Yeah, there you go. I'm tearing up, but because it's so real, man. Like, it's come to pass now. And we've got another one coming up here on February 15th. And we're lining them up. And it's going to, right now, it's kind of New Hampshire. It's going to expand outside of, it's going to be a national thing. We're going to be bringing educators up on stage so that they can shout out, celebrate the amazing things that they're doing with the students, and being able to access more parents and more students out there at younger ages so that they understand what is available, so that they can expand that menu of careers that's pretty short listed. It's like you ever go to a restaurant and they got like coffee, water, hamburger patty, and ice. Like, that's all they give you. That's how we've been treating careers. Like, bro, I want something. I need me some fly and some dessert on that damn menu. Come on, baby.
I love it. February 15th, you said, and it's what,
Yes.
Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live,
And
YouTube, YouTube
Yes.
as well.
Yep.
Definitely tuning in for that. That's exciting. I love to watch that and engage with y'all. And you had a pretty big following in the first one, didn't you?
Yeah, like through Facebook, there was like 200 something viewers. It was not, it was huge, like day one, so it's only gonna grow.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, Skilled Trades Alliance, like shout out there as well. NCCER, the things they're doing to build your future. They've got this portal that they're actually connecting employers with employees. Texas and North Carolina are their beta programs here coming out in the next few months. And so keep an eye out for that. And I want to dive into what I guess you might call the fans only content. No, keep your shirt on. Hold on. But so one of the things, and I'm hoping that this kind of leads into, it's going to flow very well. You know how important flow is to me. So one of the things, the impacts that I see, the value that you bring, at least to me personally in my life, is the way you ask questions. I want you to dive into a little bit of that because again, you're hosting these, podcasts and live streams and you're speaking in front of people and you're really encouraging people to think, not test, as you said. And so you just take us through like what is in Jesse's head when you're putting together a question. Take us through Jesse land, as you like to say, and sport your peacock feathers and
Yeah.
kind of help us understand how to grow some colors to our feathers, right? How do you engage with people through questions? And how do you really come up with these questions? Man, you ask some gold questions. And I just, again, almost personal development. I'm a little selfish here, but I'm dying to know, how do you come up with the questions that you ask?
The simple, baffling answer is by listening. It's important to note that I've had a lot of practice.
Hold on, what'd you say?
A lot of exactly. A lot of practice, a lot of, David Verbal is another one of my coaches, and I've got to give him most of the credit for me being at the space I am in terms of the questions and my ability to listen, or my growing abilities to listen. When I say listen, there's a lot of things that are required for me to be prepared to listen. And so it starts all the way back in planning and scheduling, right? So like if I'm scheduling an appointment, like this conversation here, you and I had a buffer of time between my previous thing and this call so that I could disconnect from all the stuff that's going on over there and be totally present with what's going on here. That minimizes the static in my head. Even though we have a device between us right now, I have a practice of when I'm speaking to somebody. I get a lot of flack for not answering my phone like the second somebody calls me, and I'm okay with it. And it's always because I am talking to somebody else. And so the person in front of me is always the most important person. But that took practice, right? I was that person. I used to Like you and I will be talking. I'm like, oh, hang on. Yeah. How you doing? Can I call you back? What's the point of that disruption? Like, don't even answer the darn phone. Like, because now I just underserved you and underserved the person that was calling me. So turn the damn thing off or whatever you need to do so that I can stay here and stay connected to you. Now, you know this because I sent you my list of things that I figured out. You asked me an enormous question was, how do you focus? And so I said, oh, let me figure that out. And then it turned into like a 3-page thing.
Ooh, can I put that in the show notes? Is that okay?
Throw it in the show notes. Yeah,
Oh
people will say,
boy.
man, that's a glimpse into Jesse land. My mind, like many of our minds, is always constructing, deconstructing, thinking, wondering, like, or getting disengaged because the conversation is not going fast enough, or because I want to take it somewhere else. Like all of these things are happening. And so I have some techniques that I use to remain focused on to remain connected to the person. And I don't mean looking at, right between their eyebrows so that they feel like there's eye contact. Like that's middle school grade. Like if that's all you can do, good, keep building it, but you ain't there yet. Now, when I am speaking with someone, even virtually, if I can have a view, just like I can see you, right, chest up, I'm paying attention to what people's bodies are telling me. I'm paying attention to the tone. I'm paying attention to where their eyes look when they ask a question, when they answer a question. Like it's listening with all my senses, right? My eyes and my ears, at least, to see, is their body telling me the same thing, the words that they're telling me? And so that's the setup. And then go ahead.
I heard a genius once say, I'm listening with my eyes and hearing with my ears. No. Yeah. Hearing with my eyes, seeing with my ears, right? You were the
Sure. Yeah.
genius. What was it? I don't know. It was in your the paper that you wrote, the book that you wrote.
Yeah.
Listen
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
my eyes. I don't know.
It's both. It's listen with your ears and your eyes.
There you go. Okay.
Right. Because you got to be able to be in tune with the human being.
Yeah.
And then what they're telling me, well, especially like in a coaching engagement, there's a story going on within themselves that they're telling themselves. And I know this because I do the same thing. And so what is the story you're telling yourself? What is the information that you're presenting? And then I'll just ask a curious question. Like I don't have a cheat sheet of questions. It's as we're talking, something is going to be interesting or whoa, that's not an light. Like, well, what was that? And so I'll ask about it. And as those questions go, I mean, really, it's a trip of self-discovery. And as I'm asking questions, I'm learning immensely about the human being. And on really good days, I'm helping the human being examine their thinking and discover more about where they're at on the situation that they're wrestling with.
So I hear you saying you're very intentional about building a connection, right? And staying focused. And I'll even drop in the open-ended questions, right? It's not
Oh,
something that you're going to say yes or no to.
mm-mm. So that's an important, so that's like the skill thing. And we're doing we got a little experiment going on, right? There's a group of us that are working to build that capability. And that takes so much practice because really, for me, when I want to make a statement, it takes me a second to don't make a statement, ask a question. Or when I want to ask the yes or no question, it takes me a couple seconds to reframe the question so that it's not closed-ended. That's taken a lot of practice. And sometimes I don't do it vocally. Sometimes I do it, but you'll hear it on my podcast. Like I'll start at, well, no, rather, let me say it this way, because I'm adjusting what I'm going to say, like live in the moment. That's exactly what's happening, right? And that's okay, because it provides an amazing experience for the individual. So now the practice, like, here's the challenge, y'all. If y'all listen out there, you want to give it a shot. Have somebody come to you and share the problem that they have, any problem that they're dealing with. Your job is to listen and only ask open-ended questions. If you're giving advice, fail. If you're asking close-ended questions, fail. If you're or you're doing, yes, or you're doing what I like to do, making statements with a question mark at the end, right? Like, what you should do is X, Y, and Z. What do you think about that? Come on, man, weak sauce. And record yourself and go back and review it. And you will find out you are not as good at it as you think you are. And because it takes tremendous practice.
And shout out Kirby Coates for helping to organize that group, huh? And Sean Moran. That, I'll tell you what, that's a lot of fun. At first I was like actually reluctant. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Another live stream Jesse Hernandez thing. But I'll tell you what, that has really, really upped my game, to toss a George Hunt term out there, as far as just, asking the right questions. Man, I have really, really enjoyed that. So thank you, anonymous LinkedIn user.
Oh yeah, it was her brainchild.
Yeah, one of the things, and you'll even hear it in this podcast, when I'm going through and I ask like a question and I see somebody's like thinking, right?
Yes.
Sometimes I elaborate on it and try and like buy them a little bit of time, and I gotta stop doing that. That's like
Yes.
when you just can feel the thinking, that is amazing. The other thing I'm starting to kind of pick up on is when you build that trust and that culture. When you do that, sometimes you can even ask questions with statements, and people just already like expect to answer that next question, as you and Jen say often. I love that. Love the learnings from you here. It all starting to blend together a little bit for me here as we start to talk about, engaging or changing the image of the skilled trades through asking questions, through encouraging not just the next generation of workforce, but also parents, teachers, counselors, coaches, educate, like the whole spectrum of influencers, if you will, not social media mogul influencers, but actual influencers of the day-to-day human life, which I guess could be social media, but more hands-on, tangible influencers. One of the things you've always impressed me with is your ability to get out on a job site, to go to the field, to be where value is created, and to add value to that. And I've heard you toss around the term swequity improvements from time to time. And so, I'm curious how that blends into this equation, right? Because you've got this tremendous respect for tradespeople, and then you've got this tremendous ability that you're owning of asking the questions and getting people to think. One of the big things, if you follow me, is, our school systems and what they teach just in society today, right? They teach to test, and they're not teaching people to think. And so you've got this tremendous ability to insert respect for trades because you've been there, you've done it, that they're worthy. Like, that they have minds that we just have so much knowledge loss. It's insanity. And so, and then again, this other ability to ask great questions. And I feel like this swequity improvement, as you call it, is kind of that borderline that rides in between those of asking the right questions to engage thinking at the job site level. Tell me about this swequity improvement program. Tell me about the things that you do to add value in the field for the workers.
Yeah, thank you for that. And swequity, we're still massaging that. So far, that's the words around it. And thank you for that one. It was some learning that I had. Lean Enterprise Institute, LEI, brought it to my former employer with a client. It's around continuous improvement. So some people out there may know it as a Kaizen event, but it's a very specific way of studying and improving work. The reason we're calling it swequity improvement is, as many things, I've learned there's just so much more to learn. And even though I can like technically say I've been a lean practitioner since 2001, my understanding of what it really has transformed enormously. And this sweat equity improvement is the most significant one in terms of time, right? It's gigantic, and it's like the most recent one. And so here's what I discovered it it. Even though I'm a tradesman, even though I was out there plumbing and running crews and, the whole thing, I was a horrible builder of capabilities. I convinced myself that I was building capabilities. And so here's the shiny boots, right? We got Bryant Sanders was my coach through this experience, and the impact he had on me has been pretty darn profound. And so here was like the gist of it. They're going to come out, these shiny boots were going to come out and teach me how to watch work. And I'm like, bro, come on, man. I've been doing this. I know what I'm doing. And right out of the gate, we're all kind of familiar with value add, incidental, and waste. And so I'm like, what do you get? Like, come on, I know those words already. But here was the difference. What we did is we studied, and I'm not saying observe or watch, I'm saying studied, because we were physically within eye shot watching these men do their job, and we were tracking every step that they did. Every step. And let me tell you, usually what happens is people will come up with like high level 10 things that they did. You're not even close enough. And so he said, okay, what you're looking for, Jess, is hard work. And I'm like, hard work? Like, if it wasn't hard, project managers would do it. What are you talking about, hard work, right? And he's like, no. Right now, we're in our industry, we're so accustomed to abusive and less than respectful work that hard work is just the norm. And so what he told me, he's like, Jess, what you need to look for is whenever they kind of like rub their brow or kind of wince or take a deep breath or like wring their hands, or they're on their knees, or they're working up over their head, all of those are indicators of hard work. The thing that you call hard work is just disrespectful work. I'm like, damn. So that shifted my vision and my understanding of what to be looking for. And as it relates to lean, what it did was like, oh, wait a minute, all this time I've been trying to optimize and eliminate the waste and 5S and organize to optimize output. And I think that's where a lot of lean practitioners are. And that's not bad, but they're struggling like all hell to get buy-in. Now, when I go out there and improve the lean knowledge that I have to make that man or woman's day better and remove the burden from their work, I got no problem with buy-in. And all of a sudden, I got friends. People want me back because I can make their day better. One guy, Ruben, I tell this story because it was so impactful. Sean was there with us. We deploy, and so here's the sweat equity part. We study, we analyze, there's a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of classroom time, breaking it up, video. We're breaking things down to the second, coming up with an improvement strategy, and we are not giving them a list. What we're doing is we're getting the material, the tools, the equipment to design, prototype the improvement, and we're putting it into play. And so now we got it all set up for Ruben. Ruben done, he's digging it. And it's like, all right, this is awesome. It's working. Oh, that's not working. Now we got to, like, we're just tinkering around. He goes home. The next day, we're like, all right, Ruben, we made some tweaks here. Like, what do you think? And he's like, guys, I got to tell you, last night was the first night that I went home. I didn't pass out on my lazy boy. I went home. I was able to play with my grandkids. I was awake to talk to my wife. I had an amazing night's sleep. Had I been working this way my whole career, I would have 10 more years to work. And he was months away from retiring. And that was a result of like 3 days total of studying, analyzing, breaking it down, putting some stuff into play and testing it out. Like that transformed my mind forever. And so that's where, again, back to respect for the trades and asking the questions, I'd ask Ruben, like, what part of this is difficult? Well, none of it's difficult. Of course, like that's the answer you're going to get. So don't ask the silly question. What part of this would like, where does that hurt you? Where does that feel uncomfortable? And the only reason I was able to ask that question is because I was watching him and looking at the way he contorted his body or the way he winced and gritted his teeth. Like, oh, what is it about that made you feel that right now?
Yeah, you were
Like,
listening
well,
with your eyes. Yeah.
that's it. That's absolutely it. And so when you ask the question, they say, boom, they give you the answer, like magic, gold. Or when we deployed, like there's an element in there where we say, hey, these are our improvement ideas, right? And so normally, well, what do you like about it? Not a good question. One important question is, will you do this? Like I know that's a closed-ended question, but if they're not committed to doing it, don't waste your time building it. Do something that they are committed to doing. Duh, right? Customer value, first principle lean. And then as we're like, what would you like to actually see? Like, these are our ideas. Now you see where we're headed. What would you like to see? Like, crazy idea, open checkbook, and boom, the gold starts coming out. Or do you think that, how would your friends feel about this improvement? Oh man, like so-and-so over there, like he really needs that, right? He just had surgery or what, like, and so now we're understanding a deeper understanding of the value that actually or potentially can be experienced. Now, back to the education system and teaching to the test, because we live it in construction. And here's the problem. The problem is this: we have outcomes that we are committed to, that we are held to, that are expected of us. And then there is capability building. That is an intense and immense investment. And these things are competing with each other all the time. And so when we're hyper focused on outcomes, budget, schedule,
Culture.
we undermine capability building. And as I learned all this stuff, I went out, we started transmitting the knowledge to other groups of people. I got to take the lead of these things. I found myself in a situation where, as the facilitator and the teacher of this stuff, I saw an opportunity to produce pretty significant outcomes in terms of schedule gain and labor reduction. And luckily, Sean was there with me, and I'm like, hey, bro, here's what I think. If we did this, if we deviated from the plan and did these things, we could really have some sexy outcomes that would get other people saying, I want some of that. And he said, Jess, you're right. But what is our purpose? The purpose was to build capability and remove hard work. He's like, you're not going to be building capability if we go chase that outcome. Like, wah! And so that's the reality of what organizations are dealing with, is disconnect between the outcomes and the purpose.
Man, I love everything you just said. I got a whole post-it full of notes that I want to dive through. I hear you talking about systems, right? And we talk about virtuous and vicious systems. Virtuous are good that live on forever. Vicious spiral out of control. And when what you're doing to their work is a system, and gravity or hard work is always fighting against them. And so when you allow them, Hal Maycomer, and for one, I love the start, stop, continue exercise. And the other day I was talking to Hal, and he's like, when you do that, that's just modifications to your system by giving the trade partner input, by giving that craft worker input. And so I hear you doing start, stop, continue exercises on their actual installation of work, on their process, and you're listening to them and you're asking questions. Even when they're not talking, they're just grimacing. And so, man, that's super powerful. I hear you talk about productive learning when it's capability in one hand and production in the other, and how are we constantly balancing these? And again, that's that's why I started Construction Ache Solutions. Is I want to be out there in the field helping folks learn in the moment on their jobs. Like, I don't want to pull them into a conference room, and I don't want to pull them out of the field. I want to go there and make them uncomfortable in their comfort zone. And so then they're growing, right? And we're doing a tact plan, like on the job, or we're pull planning, or making work ready on the job in their domain, where with knowledge that they understand. And so I love what you're talking about. In fact, Carla Sipsky and myself are delivering a capability development or how to build capabilities webinar for the Lean Construction blog on February 16th. Definitely tune into that. We're going to have some fun while we talk a little bit about systems like you're diving into, and then really give some folks some practical ways on how to build capabilities, some of which me and you have talked about. And actually, we've added a new section of building capabilities, totally modeled after the Jessinator, after the
Uh-oh.
Questionator. And yeah, we called it asking the right questions or something along those lines of man, it is a real, it can provide real value when you're able to ask the right open-ended question that makes somebody think. So, man,
Yeah,
powerful, Jess.
love it.
Where do we go from here? I do think you're smarter than the pipe, for one. I'll tell you that.
Yes, I'm gonna go ahead.
But you've used a word that bothers me a few times, and we've had this kind of conversation, some feedback, and I'm starting to discover that maybe these words that bother me maybe don't really bother me so much, but I like to kind of break them down so that I'm not the only one that can communicate in that way. You said the word lean like 5 or 6 times, and I've
Yep.
literally got tallies over here, so I may have missed one. I haven't. Like, that's the first time I said it, other than welcome to the podcast. Hey, y'all, the Lean
Yep.
Builder. And so, you know, ban the word or not ban the word. What do you think?
I call it what you need to call it, man. I wouldn't again. So banning. Here's the thing with banning something. In order to ban something, I have to exert energy against something. That energy, I've got a limited amount of energy. I would prefer to exert that energy for something. So rather than lean, like let's stop using the word lean. What's the definition? Or my definition's better than yours. Like whatever. I agree. You win. How about let's just go remove some hard work?
I love it.
That's where I am on that conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you. I hear you saying no bullshito. I
Yep.
don't really
Let's go.
care what your definition of that word is. We're going to do this for the worker. And I think
You got
that's
it.
where, as an industry, we really lose sight of what is the true value that is being added. And without our craft workers, our trade workers, the men and women in the field with the not the fancy boots, but the dirty boots, the boots on the ground, the hoots on the ground, if we're not making their work easier, we're totally missing the target. That was beautiful. What so
Got it.
what's the one word that bothers Jess? Is there a word or a language or something that bothers you?
I don't know if it's a word. I guess it's the associate or the thinking. It's the thinking that bugs me. The thinking that lean is about efficiency and optimization. That's what bothers me. And I'll tell you why. The reason it bothers me is because what that does is it ends up the people that function with that thinking, and it's not horrible. It just bothers me. I'm delicate, right? I'm sensitive. What it does is it makes people feel like an object. I was introduced to lean in the last planner system probably 3 years before any general contractor that I worked with started using the words. And when the GC started doing it, they were talking about the 8 waste, and there was like a hidden 9th waste. And that 9th waste was the trade partners. Like they never said that, but because they were thinking about efficiency and optimization, we were just people in the way of them achieving that. And again, transforming or evolving to improving the work for the person, all of a sudden you have an army of people that are part of the solution. And so it's the thinking about optimizing and efficiency. Those are outcomes. That is not the spirit of continuous improvement. That is an outcome. When we improve the poorly designed work, when we go and fix that to better serve the human beings that are doing the damn work, the outcomes happen. And I got data to prove that. I've lived it. I've seen it. Like that's the deal.
And to be clear, when you say design the work, you're not talking about well, maybe a little bit talking about the designers, but you're more referencing methods, means and methods in the way
So
we're
I'm
doing
talking
them.
about the whole value stream. So
Oh,
here's an example. So yes, Means and methods we're going to talk about. Those are the easy ones that we can do right now in the moment. But imagine an electrician that's got to bend over, not totally bend over. The height of the bus bar of where they got to land all their terminals is not high enough for them to be standing up and not low enough for them to be kneeling down. So now they're hunched over into this damn thing that's super compact, that has no lighting, doing the work. What would it take? I mean, I don't know the answer. There are a lot of improvements to be had to fix this physical situation in the moment. But thinking long-term, what's it going to take to redesign that damn bus bar so that it's right here at chest height? That's when it's not just the way they're approaching the work. And here's the other thing. We're not doing the work the hardest way possible because that's what we want to do, damn it. It's because that's what we know. So yes, show me another way, show me a better way, show me an easier way. And again, show me, don't tell me. And don't stop there. What are you going to do on the next design to eliminate the burden that was designed into the damn work?
Yeah, I hear you talking about design for manufacturing and assembly, and
Yep.
Charlie Dunn has really drove that in my head. That's the next generation. That's where we're headed, past prefab into manufacturing. How are we manufacturing the solutions? So I love that. Spoken like a true lean builder, because making work easier for our tradespeople, that's what lean builders do. One more question, and I know we're wrapping up. We got 5-6 minutes, something like that. I want to keep it to an hour or so to respect our tradespeople's time, boots on the ground time. But what advice do you have going in, like, you're 20 plus years in the industry? What advice do you have for the next generation who may not be so silver foxy? Like, what would you tell them if I'm like brand new coming into the industry? What advice do you have for me, Jess?
So a couple of things. It were like exactly two things. One is you are enough. Know that, tell yourself that as many times as you need to until you believe it. You are enough. One. Two, ask questions. That's it.
I love it. In a lean construction blog that I did a few months back, I highlighted a few questions that you tossed out there, and it was for the supervisors who were going out on the job, trying to discover more, trying to learn, not necessarily technical items, but maybe learn about somebody. I'm going to challenge you. Do you remember those 3 questions?
Yeah. So that is part of the Swequity experience. Is you go out, meet somebody you don't know, ask them their name, ask them where they're from, ask them how long they've been on the job.
And what was different on their last job from this job?
Yeah, well, you got
that was a real deal for me. That was a game changer. That question, because people love talking about their work. And so, man, amazing to have you on, Jess. Thank you so much for donating your time to the Lean Builder. Thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for continuing to drive what you're doing. I would invite all the Lean Builders out there, tune in, Jen and No BS with Jen and Jess, Learnings and Missteps, live stream after live stream. Best way to get a hold of you, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, or you can go to the website, learningsandmissteps.com. LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time. We're on all the socials, TikTok even, but LinkedIn is really where there's a high density of interaction. So we spend a lot of time there for sure.
Love it. Yeah. Connect with Jess. He will lift you higher than any and everybody. I mean, just perfect example, Jess. I asked you, I said, the intro question was, hey, who is Jesse? Just tell us a little bit about yourself. And what'd you do? You proceeded to name like 8 or 10 other people in that introduction but that's just you, man. That's lifting others. That's elevating others. That's really trying to extract the common knowledge that's out there. Again, just what lean builders do. So thank you, Jess. Appreciate your time. And I look forward to continuing to learn with you.
10-4. Thank you.